What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is a veteran of the show. He happens to be a two-time high school state wrestling champion, a high school national champion. Because of that, earned a scholarship, a full-ride scholarship to Oklahoma State University to wrestle at the Division I level. He is a two-time All-American, including a academic All-American, was an NCAA Division I national champion at 197 pounds, turned that into a successful, very successful MMA career with the UFC as a 16-time UFC fight veteran, coach, motivational speaker, mentor, and now is one of the most sought-after wrestling coaches for MMA. Mark Muñoz, how you doing, man? The Filipino wrecking machine.
Damn.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Thank you for having me on the show.
No problem, man. Anytime. I wanted to talk about, so before we had you on, you talked about a little bit about what kind of got you to the point where you're at now, running a very successful wrestling program, being one of the most sought after coaches. Not only that, you're a motivational speaker, and you've impacted so many people's lives, including mine. But now you're doing it with a bullying campaign, and you're talking to kids coming up and youth about character building and bullying. But you also run a very successful wrestling club. And I feel like a lot of athletes maybe don't think about what they're going to do after their career's over, whether you're an NFL player, MLB guy, UFC fighter. Your window as an athlete is very, very small. And you've been able to turn that into a very successful career, if you will, and passion. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about how you turned a passion into a career, and if you can kind of walk us through why wrestling and why coaching.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's I'm gonna be fairly long-winded here, but it all started when I was in 8th grade. So going back, I was in 8th grade, and in my neighborhood, in my city, you know, Jordans were big, and they're still big. You know, even 20 years later, 25 years later, I'm dating myself there, but I wanted a pair of Jordans, and I got a pair of Jordans, and I wore them, and I was getting verbally bullied for them when I went to school, and I was walking down the hallway. A guy said to the right of me, "Hey, yo, break yourself off in them J's." And I'm like, whoa, that didn't make me feel good. So I just kind of walked away from that, not knowing who it was, and so I kind of scurried away from that. But I like to play basketball, so I went to an open gym after school, and I played basketball, but I had my J's on, so I didn't want to scuff them or like scratch them up, and so I took them off, I hit them and put them in my backpack, hid them underneath the bleachers, and played hoop for about 2 hours, and then I walked home. Well, as I was walking home, I had to walk down a pathway, and down this pathway is where a lot of people kind of walk, you know. It was like in between the school and the main street, and so I was walking, and as I was walking, I got to the middle of it, and all of a sudden there was guys running behind me. I didn't know, you know, and so I looked back, and they were looking at me, and not in a very nice way, and they ran up on me and shoelace tackled me and started beating me up. As I tried to push my way up, I got kicked in the face, and I tried pushing my way up, I got hit in the back of the head, and then I was out. When I woke up, I pushed my way up, I woke up in a pool of my own blood. Had no shoes on, and I was bloody, battered, and bruised waking up. So yeah, it was quite the experience, because when I was getting held down, man, I had all these emotions inside me, right? I was angry, you know, I was anxious, I was sad, I was all these emotions within me, and I couldn't do a single thing, you know. And I talk about that because I always talk about your life experiences shaping and molding you into who you are and who you become, right? But even more important, your life choices do that. Like what you choose in life is going to shape and mold you, right? So, and I'm not talking about the choices like, am I going to brush my teeth with Crest or Colgate? Am I going to eat an apple or orange? You know, I'm not talking about those types of choices. The choices I'm talking about are the friends that you keep. what you decide to put in your mind when you're watching TV or reading a book or surfing the internet, because whatever goes into your mind comes out in your actions and behaviors, you know. So it's your character, right? And there's actually good character and there's bad character, you know. So you are who you put into your brain and who you surround yourself around. Sure. Right. So I talk about that stuff, right? Your choices, and then for me, I found the passion, you know, because of what happened to me. A friend came up to me and was like, "Hey man, you need to learn how to wrestle." I'm like, "Wrestle? Nah, man, you guys wear tight leotards and touch each other in funny places, man. I'm cool with that." He was like, "What? You think that's funny?" I go, "Nah, man, that's just what you do, homie. I'm good, you know?" And he's like, "What, you think that's funny?" I go, "Nah. That's just what you do, man." You know? And he's like, "I bet you I could take you down in 10 seconds. I said, "Yeah, right. You're barely 5 foot nothing, barely 100 pounds. I'm 5'6", 150 pounds at the time, right? This is me in 8th grade. Yeah. And he's like, "Well, I bet you I can take you down in 10 seconds. I said, "You're right." So I break down in my stance, like how I knew what was the stance back then. And I'm like wiggling my fingers like I'm gonna do magic to him or something, right? And he shoots in, like I didn't know. He shoots in, grabs 2 legs, and like picks me up. I was like, "Oh shoot," and slams me on my back. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I've been wearing a tight leotard ever since, right? I decided, I made a choice. I'm like, dude, if wrestling gives him superpowers like that, I want it, you know? And so.
And you hadn't wrestled before?
I haven't wrestled before.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I was like, dude, I went home and I said, "Dad, what do you think about me wrestling?" He goes, "Yeah, you can wrestle, but you're gonna wrestle the first day and the last day and every day in between." I go, "Okay, cool." Yeah. So I went to the first day of practice, and for those that have wrestled before, your first day of practice, you don't know anything, right? Yeah. So I'm there, I'm feeling awkward with all the movements and the technique. I didn't know where to put my hands, didn't know where to put my head, my shoulder, my weight. I didn't know where to put anything, right? And so the coach was teaching a double leg, obviously, because that's one of the first moves you teach somebody, right? And so I was like, that's the move that James hit on me, man. I can't wait to hit this back on him, right? So he's shooting in, picking me up, so we're just drilling, right? I'm like, sweet. And so I'm drilling it, feeling good about it. And then the coach says, "All right, guys, time to go live." And I'm like, wait, I am alive. What does that mean? What does that mean, right? He's like, no. Means that you go 100%, I'll put you in the double leg and you go 100%, and you know we'll in time when I blow the whistle, it's over. I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool," right? But then he gets in on the double leg, and I'm like, "Wait, how do you defend this?" He didn't teach the defense to it, so I'm like, "Oh, dang," you know. So the whistle blew. Guy picked me up, slammed me, started cross-facing me, got a half and turned me to my back. I didn't know how to defend. I was like, wait, wrestling is not what I thought it was going to be, right? Yeah. I just got my butt handed to me that whole practice. And I didn't like it. I got a bloody lip and bloody nose, and I was like trying to wipe my nose with my shirt. You know, it was like, this is not a good sport. I don't like it, right? Yeah. I'm at home, right? My dad comes home early. The next day I'm at home. My dad comes home early from work and says, "Hey, Mark, what are you doing home?" I go, "Dad, I don't want to wrestle anymore." He goes, "What?" He goes, "What?" Grabs me by the arm, opens the door, throws me into the car, slams the door, and drives me to the school. Takes me out of the car, presents me in front of the coach, and says, "Hey, Coach Minahan, Mark Muñoz is here. See you later," and walks out. I'm like, "No, Dad, no," you know. And then progressively, I mean, he didn't let me quit. Yeah. So progressively, I started noticing that, like, I was getting a little bit better, you know, and then a little bit better. I was starting to take the positives from me getting whooped on. Yeah. To me finding out how how to switch it around and be successful thereafter, right? So I was learning that stuff.
So did
right?
you slowly fall in love with the sport? Because you didn't like it at first.
I didn't like it at first. I hated it. And my dad was like, "You're not quitting." Then probably at the end of the season we can reevaluate where you want to go. But he goes, "You're not stopping." So, and I noticed towards the end, like I ended up liking it. I started going with all the better guys. I went with some seniors, and I was in 8th grade. I went with some seniors, and they were like, "Oh, dude, he's gonna be good," you know. So I was like, "Oh, sweet," you know. So that kind of gave me some confidence. So, anyways, just to kind of talk about your question, right?
Yeah.
Long-winded, right? But I found the passion through the events that went into my life of wrestling, when somebody introducing wrestling to me, and then me getting into wrestling, not liking it, then me falling in love with it thereafter. Yeah.
What other than your dad,
Yeah.
what forced you to stay in that? Because a lot of people, would be really easier to find an excuse to quit. Was it because of what happened with the Jays, or did you started developing this skill set and this passion and this love? But what was the motivating factor behind that? Because I feel like a lot of times, especially when you're young with kids, they have a goal. There's like an end goal.
Yeah.
But there has to be a motivating factor, like a fire within them.
Yes.
What was that for you?
I had friends. So my junior high or middle school, they call it now, was about 5 or 6 miles away from the high school where we practiced, because freshmen were considered high schoolers, but the 9th graders were still at the middle school or junior high. So we had to get a ride to get to the high school practice. So my friends kept me accountable. Okay. And they were like, "Hey, you coming to practice?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there." And I didn't want to disappoint. I didn't want to I didn't want to, let my brothers down, you know? So I'm like, I'll go, And so these guys kept me in it, like James Butane, Anthony Rambawa, Oliver Collis, and these guys were like the ones that were keeping me accountable and say, "Hey, you need to go," Okay. So I was like, all right. So I went, and then just that right there, that accountability and not wanting to let my brothers down, led me, and my dad, led me to like, you know what, I gotta keep going, and then that later became me falling in love in wrestling, and then because I was always a hard worker, but of course you're not gonna like getting beat up,
No.
bloodied face and bruised and battered. You don't like that,
Some people might.
Yeah, you don't like that, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you don't know what to do and you felt like you had no hope in the beginning, like I'm like, God, dude, this is not my sport,
Yeah.
So it's easy to quit, but thank goodness my dad had foresight, and my friends. I was in a position where I was like, I can't let my friends down. Mm-hmm. My dad won't let me quit, so I'm gonna stick it till the end of the season and see where I'm at. But by the end of the season, I end up getting a lot better, and fast forward, I ended up becoming a 2-time state champion, the first time to ever do it for my school, from the county.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty awesome.
And then right after that, so we state champ, national champ.
Yep.
You went into college.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that journey, because as many people know, and if you don't know, there's this little guy at some point in your college career by the name of Daniel Cormier that was kind of gunning for your weight class when you've already established yourself as a 197 pounder.
Yeah.
And then you knew that you were going to wrestle in that weight class. How was that dealt with within the team? Because now you guys are teammates in your family.
Well, here's the story. So I was cutting weight to make that sophomore season. I was making 184.
Oh wow!
And 184 was hard for me, especially same day weigh-in.
Yeah.
Because my freshman year coming in, I was a 189 pound state champion, national champion coming in, and Coach John Smith looked at me and he like was observing me. He goes, "Hey, you need to cut down to 167." So he cut me down to 167.
Your freshman year?
My freshman year. Okay. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be hard, you know? So I was like, but John Smith says something. I mean, he's arguably one of the best American wrestlers in history, one of the best coaches nationally ever, you know? And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll cut down, coach, whatever, you know? And so I was getting down to weight and I didn't know how to cut weight. I was just losing water. I was going into the sauna, you know, just sitting there like shriveling up like a raisin, you know. I was a grape and then I ended up becoming a raisin. I was like, oh, like all shriveled up, and then having to wrestle for open tournaments and stuff like that. And that's how I knew cutting weight was. I didn't know how to cut weight, you know. And so that was a time where we could put on plastics, you know, that's like a rubber suit, you know, and layer up. And we used to run through practice and then put on our plastics and then ride a bike, 5 on, 5 off, 5 on, 5 off. And I didn't know, I didn't know what I was doing. And so one of my teammates goes, "Hey man, just look up, you'll feel good." And so I'm like looking up, I'm like trying to pedal the wheels. I'm like, you know what? This actually makes me feel worse. What are you doing, man? I'm like, they're laughing at me, you know, because I didn't know how to cut weight, you know. So anyways, after my sophomore year, I was ranked in the nation. I was like ranked top 8 in the nation, you know, and I went to nationals. I was 11 pounds over after the first day, and you got to make weight every day. So I had to lose 11 pounds that night. And I lost 11 pounds. Then I wrestled the next day. I won one match, and then I lost another match, and I lost another match. Because I was just so drained, you know?
And what weight was this?
This was at 184, you know? And I was like, dude, I never want to feel this way again. I got to go up, right? And then after the season, coach calls us in and says, "Hey, let's talk about your season. Let's talk about the nationals, like how you felt." And I said, "Coach, I think I need to go up." He goes, well, I think you need to, you know, get a nutritionist, and we need to keep your weight down, because this is the time where, you know, in 1998, this was the time where the NCAA was kind of going through some switching of making weight or weighing in protocol, right? Because it went from night before weigh-ins to night of weigh-ins. I mean, to day of weigh-ins. So, and you had an hour, you know, between competition. So I couldn't cut so much weight and then feel good for the match and refuel in an hour. I can't. That's impossible, right? Yeah. So this was kind of in the middle of everything. So I was like, "Coach," he calls me in and says, "You know, Mark, we need to keep you at 184 because I'm bringing in Daniel Cormier," you know. And I'm like, "Coach, I was thinking about going up." He goes, "Well, why don't you stay down because Cormier will go 197. I'm like, "But coach, I think I need to go up because 184 is too small for me." He goes, "Well, we'll see," you know. And he left it at that. And I was like, oh man. And this was a time where I was lifting and trying to get stronger. And the coach there, one of the coaches there was like, "Hey, you can lift with me." And so I was like, okay. So I started lifting with him. He started teaching me how to lift and stuff. And so I brought that back home. And I was like, oh, sweet. And I started lifting. I got on some creatine. I got on some Tribulus. I got on some androstenedium. Like, this is the kind of stuff that, you know, Mark McGuire was on. And they said it was like completely legal. So I was like, oh, okay, sweet. So I was like taking this stuff. It was called the B Stack, right? And I was taking this stuff. I was like, ooh, I started getting bigger and stronger. Like I was like fast. And I was like lifting. I was getting stronger. It was the first time I could ever lift like 235. I was benching 235. I was like, ooh, man, I'm getting stronger. And then 235 became 265. And then I was like, oh man, dude, I'm getting stronger. And I started squatting like over 350, 365. I was like, dude, good. I'm feeling good right now, right? And so one of the wrestlers there who was training for the Olympics, his name was JJ McGrew, heard that I was getting bigger because he was trying to make the Olympic team at 213 pounds. So he's like, hey, Muñoz, won't you come back early so you could be one of my training partners? I was like, oh yeah, for sure. So I came back early. He's like, dang, you're big. I'm like, he's like, that's good for me, right? So we're wrestling, you know. John Smith comes through the door and looks and was watching us. And I don't think he recognized me. He was like watching us and then coaching JJ. And then all of a sudden he's like, wait, Muñoz? Muñoz, is that you? I go, yeah, coach. He goes, son, are you on steroids? I go, no, coach, I'm not. He goes, get on the scale. I get on the scale. I'm 235. He's like, son, you're a heavyweight. Are you gonna make? You're not even make 197. Dang. He goes, what you doing? I go, coach, I'm just lifting and eating. He goes, son, we need you down to 200 pounds in like 3 weeks, you know? And I go, I don't know if that can happen, coach, you know? And he calls me back in. He's like, you didn't lose any weight. Get on the scale. I end up like being 236. I gained a pound, right? Really? I was like, coach, I can make 197, you know? And he's like, oh, whatever, you know? And so Cormier comes in. And Cormier is coming from JUCO, right? Yeah. He was a 2-time JUCO national champion. Amazing wrestler. But he just didn't know the Division I kind of intensity or anything. And so I had to introduce that to him a little bit, you know? And so I had my way with him in the beginning because he just didn't understand hand fighting. He didn't understand the positioning. He didn't understand, like, you know, defense or any of that stuff. And so I was able to have my way with him a little bit, you know, and, you know, during that time, you know, and then as he was there, he got a lot better. But in the beginning, I established my weight class. I was a 197 pounder, and he had to drop down to 184. So he dropped down to 184. I ended up being the 197 pounder and ended up becoming a 2-time All-American and national champ. I should have won it my junior year. Yeah. I'm not salty or anything about it, but I should have won it. The guy who won it, I beat 4 times that year, and he didn't beat me. And he ended up becoming a national champ.
But he wasn't on your side of the bracket.
He wasn't on my side of the bracket. But my junior year, I lost to this guy named Zach Thompson, who it was a kind of a three-way deal with us. Like it was like a round robin, right? Yeah. Like he was short, stout, like very strong, you know, and it was hard to get in on, you know. And so I had a hard time with him, but I beat Brad Varing, and Brad Varing beat Zach Thompson. So it was just like that. And so I lost in a controversial match at nationals to him in the semis. I ended up taking third. Brad Varing ended up taking first, and you know I wasn't national champ then, but I ended up taking third. But anyways, I'm not salty about that. Yeah. But ended up becoming 2-time All-American and national champ, and you know, and the rest is history from there.
So you were able to turn that into what now is, at least in Southern California, one of the best wrestling clubs around. Why did you decide to stick with wrestling? Because you meet a lot of guys, and you know, after they say a football player, a boxer, a baseball player, a lot of times they get tired of being around the sport for so long. And then you were able to turn that into a successful career, and we can go into detail about that, but I want to know how that's impacted now because of everything that's going on in the world, how all of a sudden having a successful business, getting in this groove of life, and then all of a sudden, just like that, it changes, and now you're not allowed to have wrestling practice. You're not allowed to go to the school. You're not allowed to coach and do what you love to do, because all of us need a distraction. If we're just in a home for 24 hours a day, we're going to go crazy. And you've been able to turn that into a wrestling club, to motivational speaker, mentor. You're a coach, so how are you dealing with that now? With almost being forced to shut down what you're passionate about and impacting other people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy times right now. Yeah. You know, who would ever thought that the whole country would shut down because of a virus? You know, like it's like, what? Crazy. And I'd asked like older like my parents and like my uncles, I was like, has this ever happened in your lifetime? They're like, no, this never happened. And so this is like a one-time thing, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, I was coaching at the training lab, coaching the likes of, you know, TJ Dillashaw, Cub Swanson, Juan Archuleta, you know, Ovin St. Preux would come in, Jay Silva would come in. There's like, you know, world-renowned fighters that would come in and I would train, help them train. And then that got shut down. You know, my club, obviously, because it's in the schools,
Yeah.
the schools shut that down. I couldn't practice or do anything. And now from my businesses, you know, I can't do any of that stuff. And so it's greatly impacted kind of what I do, you know? And so, you know, and then I can't have my motivational speaking engagements with my anti-bullying campaign. I can't do that either because the schools are shut down.
Yeah.
You know, so that greatly impacts what I do. But at the same time, here's my silver lining. Because of what's going on in the world today, the pandemic with COVID-19, my older kids, my daughter, who's at YWAM in Hawaii, which is Youth with a Mission, she wants to be a missionary. Their campus got shut down, so she's home. And then my son, who goes to Arizona State on a scholarship for wrestling, their school got shut down, and he's home. So now, my whole family's together again.
Yeah.
And they can't go anywhere because of the virus.
Yeah.
Everything's shut down. So they're in the house, and now we're like together again. And we have a schedule. You know, they have to do in the morning, they have to do their schoolwork, obviously, because they do everything online.
Yeah.
But we have a schedule after that where we come together and we're teaching our kids how to cook now. So each kid is cooking meals for the family.
Nice.
Yeah. And then after the meal, we have a family game. Then after the game, we'll watch a movie, right? And so we went through the Hunger Games, you know, the series, the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
We're going through right now. We're going through the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
You know, so we went chronological order. I mean, we got a long time. You know, so we went Captain America, we went Captain Marvel, then we went Iron Man.
Yeah.
Then Iron Man 2. You know, so we're like trying to do it through chronologically. But man, I'm telling you, man, my son just prayed for our food, and I asked him to pray, and he was praying, and he said that he's thankful that he has a family who can joke around and talk to and not get sick of.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And just by him praying that, I know where his heart is, you know, and you know, we're doing family in the midst of this crisis, and it's awesome. You know, we're laughing, we're playing, we're you know, obviously there's some disagreements sometimes because we're not perfect, but there's forgiveness going on, you know? So it's like, you know, like we're learning how to operate in this whole, you know, pandemic and crisis that's going on in the world, and it's been fun, man. It's been a lot of fun. Like although I'm shut down everywhere, my income is at a standstill, I'm reconnecting and restoring my relationship with my family.
Yeah.
You know, connecting even more, having a deeper, more profound relationships with my wife and my kids. You know, and man, honestly, when this is all said and done, I think I'm gonna be depressed and sad because I'm like, my older kids are gonna go back to school, and it's like my two younger kids are at home. But man, I mean,
well, I think you deal with, you know, raising your kids,
Yeah.
and then you get ready. You almost prepare yourself. I'm not there yet, but you prepare yourself to send them off to college or adulthood.
Yeah.
And then they come back, and you're like, yeah, I got them again. You're going to have to do that all over again and kind of send them off again.
I know.
But it's a pretty unique situation in the fact that you do get to spend a lot of time with your family. But how have you dealt with, family's great, how have you dealt with the impact that it's had on your businesses. Are you guys, and maybe this can help other businesses that are maybe at a standstill.
Yeah.
You had mentioned off air that you're doing something digital.
Yep.
And is that kind of where you're taking it now because of where we're at?
Yeah. So because of this COVID-19 and the spread of the virus and the pandemic, it's impacted our income big time.
Yeah.
You know, because I can't go in and get paid for my services.
Yeah.
You know, so now it's like we got to be super creative.
Sure.
And so there's this whole social distancing thing. Even us talking,
Yeah.
there's a social distance here. We're 6
Yeah.
feet away. You know,
Sure.
so like for us, like in a full contact sport, we're like taking each other down, like holding each other down, like trying to get submissions and stuff. We can't do that, right? And so I got to get super creative. And so now I've been doing privates online. I've been doing privates through FaceTime, through Zoom, you know? And so people are like, you know, people that have mats or not even have mats, they just have a living room and move the furniture around and they learn technique. You know, if I got a kid wrestling with his dad, you know, and he's wrestling with his dad and his dad is trying his best, but he's getting the feel of the technique. And I'm having to coach his dad on how to actually really be so that he can get the right feel, you know, so that when he goes and transitions back to normal life or normal practice or normal competition, it's seamless. He can hit it, right? And so we got to get super creative, you know, and online that's where it's at now, you know. And so, you know, even what I'm trying to do is everything online. You know, I'm trying to kind of cater my business towards that now, you know, because obviously there's no interaction. We can't take each other down.
Yeah.
We can't, you know, turn each other to our back. We can't submit each other. I mean, we can't do that now, you know. So we got to do everything online now. And so that's what I've been doing. And projects are happening, you know, and so that's something that's kind of holding me right now. But obviously it's not a full-fledged business yet.
Yeah.
So I'm you know, just hopeful and remain faithful in this. I felt this is what God is kind of guiding me towards.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, you know. But at the same time, you know, like the silver lining is my family, man. You know, and being able to spend time with them and you know, I just got to be super creative in how to make an income.
And is that through the wrestling room?
Yeah, so I have thewrestlingroom.com.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to do it through the wrestling room. And, you know, my camps are still going to go through westcoastwrestler.com. You know, it's still going to go to that. And then my privates and my club, you know, we'll go to train2reign.com, TRAN, the number 2.
Yeah.
TRAIN, the number 2, reign, REIGN.com. You know, and then they'll filter through there if you're a part of the club. So yeah, so now it's like everything's online. And
so just to get a little bit into Mark Muñoz's head, where do you see, or where do you want to see the wrestling club, your job as an MMA wrestling coach / overall, where do you see yourself? Like, what are some goals that you have for yourself in say 5 years? Yeah,
so I you know, for me in 5 years, I want to have the most sought after wrestling club in the area. You know, I want to have, you know, 10 to 15 employees, you know, coaches that I'm employing through the club. I want to have a wrestling camp that's heavily sought after, and maybe go open up new locations in different parts of the country. And have camps through there. And then, you know, still me training fighters in the morning at the training lab and being able to do that. And, you know, hopefully have a team of like, you know, 50 or more, you know.
Yeah.
So, because that's what we had at Reign Training Center.
Oh yeah,
you know, so
100%.
Yeah, and then you know, and still all the while, you know, holding my virtual training system, you know. So so that's all in the works right now. I mean,
Yeah.
everything is kind of at a standstill because of what the country's going through right now. But in 5 years, I'm thinking if I can build these things up, I think we'll be all right. You know, I think we'll be able to make a living and support our family and support our kids and put them through college or whatever, what have you. You know, and so I think we'll be all right with this. But you know, still praying. You know, still hopeful, still being faithful and diligent and all these things, and partnering with my wife. My wife she's amazing. She's she's the brains behind the operations. Of course I'm the bronze, but she's the brains.
Shout out to Christy.
Yeah, Christy Muñoz is awesome. Yeah, so yeah, just we're kind of just operating in that realm right now in our lives.
Do you feel like a sense of responsibility to give back to a sport that gave you so much?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%. I mean, that's a lot of the reason, probably the majority of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because wrestling shaped who I am today. I mean from me not only wrestling an individual and struggling to be able to get a hold on him or anything, but wrestling in life,
Yeah.
Wrestling in life is hard. You wrestle through a lot of thoughts. You struggle through a lot of things. And those are the things that you have to kind of maneuver through and rise above if you're going through some type of adversity. You can't just be held down by something. You got to find a way out and rise above it. And so wrestling actually shaped and molded me to who I am today. And so like you said, wrestling has taught me a lot. And there's two sports that are referenced in the Bible. There's running, because do you not know in a race all runners run to receive the prize, right? So that's in 1 Corinthians 9:24. But at the same time, wrestling is referred in the Bible too. In Ephesians 6:12 it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principality, the dark forces, and and the evil, our lusts and our natural desires." Like that's what we wrestle against, and so running and wrestling is referred in the Bible, and wrestling, man, you wrestle every day with yourself. You wrestle whether you want to do good or you do bad. There's like a angel and a devil on your shoulder, right? I gave this talk when I was at the Eternal Warrior. Shout out to Coach Cal. He had this devotional in his character file or devotional guide journal. It had the battle between the eagle and the wolf. And there's a battle that rages inside us, right? One side of us is an eagle. That eagle soars high above the mountains. Even though it dips down to the valleys, it lays its eggs on a mountaintop, right? And then that eagle represents everything that's true, good, and beautiful in our life, right? On the other side of us is a raging, howling wolf. And that raging, howling wolf feeds upon our downfalls, our weaknesses, our fears, our doubts, and that raging, howling wolf justifies itself with its presence in the pack. But who wins that battle? It's the one you feed, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's like eagle, wolf. These two are two entities that are like ever present in your life, But in your thoughts, in your actions, in your behaviors, what are you feeding? The eagle or the wolf? So you got to choose. You know what I'm saying? You got to choose. When you have your kids in front of you, right? Do you go to your phone and start checking your social media when you could be building a relationship with your family, or do you go to your phone? You know what I'm saying? You need to put that away and start having interaction with your kids, with your wife.
Yeah.
Right? There's a person that's down and you see them down and they're close to you. Do you just walk away, Or do you go to them and say, hey, what's going on, man? Is there something I can do to help? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, do unto others as if you want to have done unto you, right? It's the golden rule. So, you know, I forgot what you asked, but I mean,
No,
this is like, I mean, I'm kind of spurting out like,
no, it's good.
Kind of wisdom I've garnered through people that I've been around and been with, and you know, I've made mistakes in my life. Like I'm not perfect at all by any stretch of the imagination, but I've learned through my weaknesses and my failures to be able to become better.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, there's all these things that I try to be and I fail to do, but I learned through the failure to become better. You know, and so that's what wrestling has taught me.
Yeah.
Is that right there? You know, you can fail and fail and fail, but don't be afraid of failure, because you're that much closer to become better. You know, if I stay away from the challenge, then I'm not going to get stronger, right? It's like lifting. It's like lifting weight, right? Do I just lift lightweight all the time? You're not going to get stronger. I mean, you're going to get more in shape, but you're not going to get stronger because your muscle fibers need to break and tear so that your body can build it back up, so you can get stronger, and then you have bigger muscles, right? So if I just keep lifting lightweight, I'm not going to get bigger and stronger. I got to put more heavy weight and struggle through it, rack it, do it again, because that's when my muscles break. Yeah. You got to break yourself to make yourself better. Does it make sense? So, so it's like, you know, eagle, wolf, break yourself to get better. Like there's a bunch of truths. You got to feed the eagle, man. There's a bunch of truths in my little rant, but you know, I mean, that's the type of stuff that.
Well, I think that's why your honesty and your transparency is the reason I think so many people turn to you and want to reach out to you and want to be affiliated with you, is because you've whether you know it or not, you've mentored a lot of people in the sport of MMA. You've mentored me, and you've meant a lot to me in my life. And anytime I reach out to you, you know, when I was fighting, when I got the wrestling job, now that I started a podcast, anytime I reach out to you, you make yourself available. So I could only imagine if you make yourself available to friends and teammates, I could only imagine how you make yourself available to your family. Yeah. And so it's been a real honor having you back on, man. I really appreciate you. And where can people find you? Just, you know, your wrestling club, what you're doing digitally, online, like where can people find you? Even if they just want to thank you or send you a message, man.
So I'm on all the social media sites. I mean, I'm on Instagram. I'm at Twitter. My handle is at Mark, MERK _ Muñoz, MUNOZ. You can find me there. You can find me on Facebook. I have a fan page there. My personal page is full. Yeah. So I can't add any more people, but you can. I try to get back to people as much as I can. You know, obviously I don't want to be on my phone the whole time, but I do things as much as I can. And so if you write to me on my fan page, I'll get back to you eventually. If I don't, write me again. I'll get back to you. So on my fan page on Facebook, you go Mark Muñoz MMA. You can just hit me up, you know, and I'll be happy you can come to my club. You know, you can go to traintoreign.com, TRAIN, the number 2, Reign, REIGN.com. You can go to me there and check out where we're at, locations that we're at, and you can come to us there if you're a fighter. You can go to the training lab. The training lab is TREIGN, lab.com. You can go to there and come and learn from us there, and we got a great team going there. So there's a lot of ways to contact me. But I'll get back to you. And whoever writes, I'll just make sure you be consistent, because sometimes I don't get to you too quick, and that's happened before. So so hit me up.
Well, wish you nothing but success, man. Thanks again for coming on. And remember, guys, that everything was impossible until someone did it.